I'm just going to talk about projects today instead of trying to demo them because my networking problems here are too severe. I'm just going to mention next semester I'm going to have to install a server in the cloud with this product on RDP proxy. So people can connect over HTTPS and it will do RDP from there. And then we'll be able to efficiently access RDP from on campus. That's my plan. This uses a product called Guacamole, which is very much like Proxmox that lets you remote control machines through HTTPS so the City College firewall will not know we're using RDP. And that's probably the best answer. But I don't have that set up now. So let me just talk about the last couple of projects here, which are pretty simple. Here you are in D5. You're going to make an authoritative DNS server on Windows, and you've already made a recursive DNS server on Windows. So to make it authoritative, you have to give your computer a DNS name. Enter a computer name like NS1, and then give it a domain name. Like your name.local is what Microsoft often does. Local is not a valid top-level domain on the internet, but Microsoft uses it for training projects. That's commonly done. All right, and now you have to have an external DNS resolver address because your authoritative server is not going to be recursive. So you're not going to be able to use it to resolve other things like yahoo.com. It's only going to resolve things inside your company, which is your name.local. And therefore, you will have to use another DNS resolver to reach the internet, .8.8.8.8. Remember before, when you made your own recursive resolver, you set your DNS to 127.0.0.1. So you would resolve with your own DNS server, which would then go out on the internet with the root hints and find domain names. But we're going to turn that off now because authoritative servers should not be recursive. So to stop it from being recursive, you go into DNS Manager, go into Properties, and in here you can disable recursion right there. So that means it will have a zone data that it has, where things it knows about, and it will only reply with information in its own zone data. It will not go search for other information on the internet. So now you turn off the root hints. It will no longer go to the root of DNS to ask any questions. You turn them off, and you go to dot, and you accept the default selection and create a new file called root DNS. And do not allow dynamic updates. So it will only know what you tell it to know about. And now you create an authoritative zone for your local DNS range, your name.local. Make an authoritative thing here, and that's it. And you haven't added any extra servers to it, so the only computer available in your zone is this machine itself, ns1.yourname.local. So you can look up that one, ns1.yourname.local. You can look it up on your local server, and if you do that, there should be a carriage return here, which is missing. These are two separate commands. Let me make a note of that. D5, carriage return missing. All right. Anyway, so here, when you do the first one, it's going to work and find it. When you do the second one, it's going to fail because your authoritative server is not recursive. It cannot find people like yahoo.com. It can only answer questions in its local zone file, and the only thing in there is this one machine, ns1.yourname.local. And that's the point of that one. And the other project, D6, does essentially the same thing on Linux. You're making a primary master server here. So if you do a dig of yahoo.com locally, you get a bunch of Yahoo addresses. That's because this, again, is acting as a recursive resolver. But you don't want that to be true for a start of authority server. So you find your IP address and you edit named.conf.local, the configuration file for bind. And now you add this zone here. Here's your local zone. This tells it this is the authoritative server or yourname.com, and it will find the data in this other file. Now you make the zone file, which is here, where you tell it what the answers are for your machine, and these have to be the right IP address for your machine. You tell it these are various things you're going to find, NS1, NS2, and your name. We're all going to point to the same server. And here you have the information like the timing parameters of how long this record should be cached somewhere. All right, once you've got that, then you restart bind. And now, when you query for yourname.com, you will get an authoritative answer, AA. So that means you're actually getting it from the start of authority, which is what you want. And if you do a recursive query, it will work. It's still a recursive server, so you want to turn that off, and you do that by adding these parameters to your file. Allow transfer none, allow recursion none, recursion no. These are the properties that turn off recursion, and so after that, it will no longer answer yahoo.com. You'll get 0 answers. So that's all. You're doing the same thing in Linux that you did on Windows. All right, that's all I wanted to show you there.